Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Everything is Bad New Fangled Motion Picture Show.
Welcome one and all to another episode of the Everything is Bad New Fangled Motion Picture Show. I'm your host, Niall.
And I'm Nolan.
And today we're going to be reviewing a movie that we've been greatly anticipating. That's been delayed after delayed.
When was it? It's supposed to come out early 2020 or something? Or
I don't remember.
It's at least been delayed a year.
Yeah, it got COVID delayed hard though. And that is The King's Man. Prequel to The King's Men. If you haven't seen the first Kingsman movie, shame on you.
For shame.
I don't think we can be friends.
No.
So before we get into this though, I do want to say we're gonna do a spoiler-free review. Then we'll give you a spoiler warning at some point, and then we'll go more in depth into it after that. So I will preface this by saying that like we're really big fans of the Kingsman movies. So we may have gone into this with a little bit of bias. But the series is really good. Like this was something we were really excited for. So, yeah. So, I gotta say, it's not often you see Hollywood, like a big budget Hollywood movie, that has any part of it take place during the Second Boer War.
Well, it makes sense. So there's been this like sort of renaissance of movies taking place in World War One.
Yeah,
the last several years, between Wonder Woman in 1917 and there's been others, I'm sure.
There's been a few, yeah.
But it's like it feels like filmmakers like I'm tired of World War II. Let's go to World War One.
Yeah.
So in order to set it in World War One, you needed to, for the purposes of the story, also have 12 years earlier in the Second Boer War.
Yep. That's not a spoiler. Like that all happens in like the first 10 minutes of the movie.
And that's all it is. It's like a few minutes, and then it jumps forward 12 years. In case you don't know, that war was in South Africa.
Yeah. And not gonna get into the politics of that, but it was definitely fought over gold and precious gems. So, but our main character though, was like working on behalf of the Red Cross in South Africa during the Second Boer War, right?
Yeah.
Orlando Oxford. Everyone kept calling him by his last name the whole movie, so I never really caught his first name.
I think they only said it like one time. I think when he showed up and he was greeting the General Kitchener.
Yeah, Kitchener.
Charles Dance, you might remember from Game of Thrones.
Yep.
When he greeted, I think he greeted him as Orlando.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was. So, but events transpired there that set up things for the later in the movie.
Right. But I just thought that was neat, and also he has a flashback sequence like later on, or he's like talking about fighting in Sudan. I just think it's neat because you don't see that a lot in movies.
So one thing is kind of interesting about this movie is it puts a very fantasy sort of movie, right? It's fanciful. There's not like a lot of realism, but it tries to weave it into actual historic events.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, they were there for, the assassination of Ferdinand or whatever. It's like, yeah, of course they were there.
Yeah. So it's
that sort of thing.
Right, and it's really, I just think that's neat. As someone who's like a history buff, I think that's neat the way they handle that. But yeah, there's definitely like obviously some fantasy stuff. It's all like super secret spy shit going on.
Yeah, and then name drops of historical figures.
Oh yeah, well we were saying like there's like a checklist that they're going through for like all the events from World War One that the audience is gonna know. So we won't get too much into the specifics on that because some of that is spoiler territory. But Yeah, I mean, this movie was not as good as the first Kingsman movie, but better than the second one. Um, I do like how they managed to weave it in and through historic events, and you know, and then there's also things that's like, well, obviously, if we're gonna have, or if we're gonna reference British regiments from World War One, of course it's gonna be the Grenadiers and the Black Watch, like
famous,
like very
one.
like famous regiments, So it's like, well, yeah, of course, that's just kind of the nature of the movie, though.
Yeah.
So it was a very entertaining movie.
Matthew Vaughn is British too, so
Yeah,
the director and writer.
So it is a very entertaining movie. And since you're going into it accepting some of these certain fantasy elements, like it is actually, you do actually really appreciate the way they weave it in and through history.
Yeah.
And then like acting was all good, but it's like Ralph Fiennes and Jimon Hanso, Charles Dance. Like I would expect nothing less from this cast, So
right.
Daniel Bruhl's in there.
Yep.
So
I didn't even know he was in the movie till he popped up. I was like, oh, look at that.
Yeah. So it's but yeah, basically, like typical Kingsman stuff. There's like shadowy organization that's working against our main characters and trying to manipulate world events and stuff.
Yep, and there's super spy stuff to try to stop them.
Yep. But yeah, it's very, very entertaining. The pacing is really well done. There are some things in there that are like legitimately shocking, like surprising in the story. Like there's some things where you're like, was not expecting it. Like there's one part where something happens and the entire theater went silent, and then like you just heard it. Like you could hear a few people go, "Well, I wasn't expecting that."
Right. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in the spoiler section. So I did think that was interesting how they could still manage to like surprise you, and very highly recommend this movie. Definitely the best movie to come out this week.
Yeah. I'd still say Spider-Man's probably better than this movie.
Like if you haven't seen Spider-Man and you're like, I want to go see a movie for like New Year's weekend or something, go see Spider-Man.
But then this is next on the list.
Yep. I haven't seen Sing 2, nor will I, but I recommend you avoid that. We need that movie to fail so they don't make a third one. Because then we're going to have to suffer through those trailers too.
Probably not for as long, because it probably won't get delayed like that again.
That's true. But yeah, got anything else to say that's not spoiler?
No, just
there's quite a bit of spoiler to like.
Yeah, there is.
Like, there's actually I will say this: the trailer tells you very little.
Yeah, I mean, just judging off the trailer, I was like, wow, like that.
Yeah, like about
what I was expecting from the movie based on the trailer is not what we got.
Yeah, maybe like
in a lot of ways,
third of the way through the movie.
And not any sort of negative way. I wasn't disappointed by it or anything. It's just
it's just that like we expected certain things to be bigger components of the movie, and then like a third of the way through the movie, you're just like, well, that was everything that was in the trailer.
Yeah,
pretty much. Other than like random action scenes that there's no telling like where those are going to pop up. But as far as like things that are story element or with characters or whatever, you're just like, all right, the rest of this is Uncharted. I have no freaking clue. Haven't seen any of it. So that was really interesting. Really, really cool. That's so uncommon these days that the trailers,
don't just give everything away.
Right. Unless you're like Marvel and you purposefully like
make fake
scenes to throw people off. So but yeah, so spoilers then?
Yep.
So Rasputin dies like a third of the way into this movie.
I was expecting him to be the main villain in the movie based on the trailer.
Right, they really made it seem like he was going to be the main villain.
What's funny,
he wasn't even. He was kind of the bottom of the villain organization.
Yeah. Yeah, I was expecting Rasputin to be a lot more important. Like, his whole purpose within the plot was to try to get Russia out of the war to weaken the Allies, you know.
So that
they can
Germany
invade.
and Austria could focus on Britain.
Right.
You notice how the villain never even considered France? Like remove Russia so we could focus on England. He explained his plot a couple of times.
Right.
Never gave a shit about France.
I think by that point, it might have been late enough in the war that Germany was just kind of like moved through there. But what's funny is, like, so the scene where they kill Rasputin is very crazy, but it's not far off from reality.
Just like everything involving that man.
Yeah, so they have this whole plot, like, Ralph Fiennes and his son go to this party in Russia because his son is the cousin of I think the guy was the husband of the niece of the Tsar or something like that. He's part of the royal family by marriage or something. But anyway, so they're having this party and Rasputin was going to be there, and so they were going to, like,
because Rasputin had a known sweet tooth.
Known for having a sweet tooth, and then he vomits up the pie or something, and so they wind up fighting him and killing him with a headshot. In reality, someone from a plot was put together with this Russian noble and some people he knew, friends, and someone from British military intelligence.
Yep.
Was there, and his name was like Oxford or something in reality as well. Or he was from Oxford, or like the Duke of Oxford. Anyway, they were there. They fed him this poisoned pie plus poisoned tea and poisoned wine, and it didn't seem to have any effect on him, on Rasputin. So one of them went and got a gun, came back and tried to shoot him, and Rasputin's lying on the ground. They think he's dead. Then he jumps up and fights them, and he shoots Rasputin 2 more times, but the final shot gets him in the forehead, and that's what kills him.
Yeah, so really, what happened to the movies, if anything, less crazy than reality.
Right, because in reality, he apparently just was unaffected by the poison. In the movie, he eats the pie, then throws it up.
And he's like, you think I don't know the taste of cyanide or whatever?
Yeah, because he knew, because it was an almond tart or something.
Yeah.
And cyanide supposedly smells and tastes like roasted almonds.
Having never tried cyanide, I cannot confirm that, but that's what people say.
That's what I've heard. So, yeah. The scene I think you're talking about that everyone, was when his son was...
when Conrad died.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Conrad, he wants to enlist because, it's his patriotic duty to king and country and all that. And,
plus, all the other guys are making fun of him.
Right. So Oxford, his father, Ralph Fiennes, who fought in Sudan and other places, but he specifically had a flashback to Sudan, or what we've determined probably.
He didn't specify, but based on the timing and the dress of everyone in the scene, it was Sudan.
Because he was already declared pacifist by the time of the Second Boer War.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, he definitely has some PTSD issues. He has a leg injury that he sustained because he got injured in when he was doing his Red Cross stuff and the Boer War, and
his wife was killed there.
He's got some PTSD issues, and he has some issues about British imperial expansionism and all that. So he doesn't want Conrad to enlist. Conrad, when he becomes an adult, though, right after they kill Rasputin, he enlists, and Ralph Fiennes uses his friendship with Kitchener to manipulate it, so he's going to be...
Well, doesn't he use his friendship with the king?
Or with the king, yeah. to ensure that Conrad's not going to be on the front line. He's going to be like an attaché to a general or something. And so he trades places with someone from the Black Watch, which is important because they're a Scottish regiment. That's important for later. And he goes to the front. And like when he first gets there, there's this guy, is German, running across the field with a British flag, and he ends up getting taken out by an artillery blast. And this officer comes up and he's like, "Well, intelligence needs the canister. That man was a spy, and military intelligence needs the canister he had." So a team goes out to get him. Like they all get killed, but Conrad survives, and he gets the guy back into the. Or the guy dies like right before they get into the trench, and he gets back with but he's
well, they ask for his name.
They ask for his name, yeah,
and he gives the fake, not his name, but
right,
the name of the guy he replaced.
Right.
Well, that guy's friend overhears him, and he's like, "Well, you're obviously not Scottish."
Yeah, it doesn't he's doing a bad accent.
I know that guy, so he calls him out as a spy and shoots him in the forehead.
Yeah.
With it, so.
Yeah, it was just like a, whoa, like you
out of nowhere, he just pulls up his rifle and shoots him.
Yeah, like you're expecting, it to be a tense situation, and then like someone de-escalates it, and then nope,
just kills him.
Yeah. So that was a shock part where like halfway through the movie to just be like, whoa.
Yeah, wasn't expecting that.
But like Ralph Fiennes needed to have his motivation for the latter half of the movie. So
they basically fridged his son.
Yeah. I mean, yes and no, because his son did other stuff along the way too.
Yeah, he had a role other than being killed.
Yeah.
Because
he saved the Archduke from the first bomb during the parade.
Right. He also he did
Serbia.
get, since he got that intelligence back.
Yeah.
Which was very important.
Yeah.
Because it was a copy of the
the spy organization used a femme fatale to seduce who was president at the time?
Woodrow
Wilson. And recorded that and was using that as blackmail to keep America out of the war. Because America had found out about the Zimmerman telegram at this point.
No, what they found was the Zimmerman telegram. Wasn't it?
No.
Okay.
Oh no, yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
They don't get the
No, they don't get the canisters, the MacGuffin at the end of the movie. There's just a bunch of MacGuffins in this movie, so.
Right. No, this is where they found out about the Zimmerman telegram.
Yeah, that's right. It was.
If you don't know, is a telegram the Germans sent to Mexico to try to get them
the Minister of State or whatever of the German Empire, Zimmerman.
Yeah, they sent a telegram to Mexico to try to convince them to attack America, so that America would be too distracted with Mexico, so they wouldn't enter the war in Europe.
Right. And what this canister was the original telegram written in Zimmerman's handwriting.
Right, because they needed proof. Because the story they were getting from America was, yeah, but that could be made up. That sounds ridiculous. We don't believe that this telegram is real, so they needed proof of the original telegram.
There was a lot of people who believed that at the time.
Within the scope of the movie, though, the reality was they were being blackmailed to stay out of the war.
Yeah.
And that was the excuse that they gave.
Right. And so they're still hesitant about it, and so that's when Ralph Fiennes, like, basically in an effort to not make his son's death meaningless.
Mm-hmm. He goes and finds the original film that they're using for blackmail, so that they can be destroyed. And
right. And so that, and then America gets in there and saves the day, which is a weird. It's a weird point of view for a British director, because
it's historically accurate though.
Right, but there's a lot of people in the UK and in Europe who are like, don't like that idea, or they claim that, like, well, America, like the war was going to end eventually anyway, and like
Yeah, but America's
You know.
entry made it in that much faster.
Right. No, I understand. You don't have to convince me. We sent our secret weapon in the form of Alvin York over there.
Single-handedly defeated the German Empire.
Yeah, basically. I mean, depending on the propaganda you read about him, yeah. So, but yeah, and it's just like it turns out that the whole thing though was being carried. The whole thing was being orchestrated by a Scotsman who was angry.
Well, he was the attaché of the general
of Kitchener. Was it
Yeah, Kitchener.
Who was the dude though? Look at Morton.
Morton.
That's right.
Morton was his name. Yeah, he was a Scotsman who was angry at the British monarchy
For years of
I mean, they treated the Scots like crap for a long time.
yeah.
So he was angry at them over that.
Yeah, and he was trying to orchestrate the downfall of the British Empire. He didn't care about Russia or whatever. Although he was using his people to manipulate things in Europe to that point. But his end goal was the downfall of the British Empire.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's basically the movie. I mean, like there's like the last act of the movie is this whole like ridiculous infiltration of the enemy base and then like sword fight and stuff.
Yeah, well, you got to get that
pretty typical
super
Kingsman
spy thing.
Yeah, pretty typical Kingsman stuff.
Yeah. One thing, it was historically inaccurate. King George did not have a stutter in this movie.
Yeah. If you've seen the King's
stutterer,
Speech,
yeah, a known stutterer.
Let's see. It did have Prince Gavrilo Princip like just happened to be at a cafe where the Archduke drove by and got a second chance at killing him. Is pretty much how it happened in real life, by all accounts.
Yeah.
He was like trying to find a sandwich shop or something.
Well, in
real life?
Yeah, in real life. In the movie, he was contemplating taking his own life because he'd be killed by the bad guy anyway.
What was his code name? They kept calling it the Shepherd?
Yes. He was the Shepherd because, like Bond-type villains always have to have some weird affectation, and his was he raised goats for
cashmere wool.
Cashmere wool.
Yeah. So
and then all of his minions had an animal that they were associated with.
But yeah, and then at the end of the movie, they formed the Kingsman organization. Ralph Fiennes is like, we can't leave this shit up to governments. Like they just fuck it up, basically.
Especially monarchies that have personal vendettas against other monarchs.
Right. So, but yeah, so that's basically the Kingsman. It's a very good movie.
Oh, there's a post-credit scene that sets up for a sequel that would be like World War II or leading up to World War II.
Oh yeah,
because they bring in Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, basically like the bad guy. So Daniel Bruhl sort of takes over the
Spectre-like organization.
Right. We didn't really get a name for the organization.
We didn't get a name for the organization,
but he's now the Shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's talking to Vladimir Lenin, and he's basically and like they're in like front of their vault full of gold.
Yeah.
And they're talking about how like they manipulated Europe and all this to like for monetary gain.
Right. And so they had just taken over, just had their revolution.
Yeah, just had their Bolshevik revolution.
Yeah.
And so he's talking to Lenin, and he's like, well, let me introduce you to who will be your counter. And, the world's most famous Austrian walks in.
Yeah.
One, Adolf Hitler.
Only marginally more famous than Daniel Bruhl, another Austrian.
I think he's more than marginally more famous than Daniel Bruhl.
I don't know. Daniel Bruhl's been in Marvel stuff now, so.
True.
I mean,
People
Just-
just that dancing Daniel Bruhl meme, right?
So, well, okay, maybe he's more than marginally more famous, but Daniel Brühl might be the second most famous Austrian.
That could be. Isn't Schwarzenegger Austrian?
Okay, so he'd be third.
Anyway, so yeah, it's set up for a sequel, which I would like to see a sequel to this. It definitely deserves more than the 6.8 that it currently has in IMDb. I'd say maybe like a 7.5.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Probably is where I would put it out of 10. So, and it's a little worrying because IMDb is usually a little easier on movies than other places. So, but hopefully it makes just a buttload of money so they make another one. I love these movies.
I hope so.
But yeah, so I think that's probably all we really have to say about that movie. So the next movie we're gonna review is gonna be The Matrix Resurrection.
Yes.
Is that what that was called? And that is the last thing for 2021 for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, January though, the 355 comes out, which I'm excited for the release of. Again, not because I want to see the movie because it looks awful, but because I'm really tired of that trailer. It's so cringy.
Agreed.
Oh my god, I hate it.
I'm like, why?
Why Colombia?
Why is Colombia like one of the top intelligence organizations in the world? I'm like, logically, it would be like America, Britain, and Israel.
Because
and then
it's like America, Britain, Germany, and China, and Colombia, right?
Was Germany in there?
Maybe they were.
No,
I don't remember if Germany was in there. But I would have done Mossad before I would have done Colombia. I would have done Israel.
Yeah, and even if you're like, okay, we really want to help Selma Hayek, or it wasn't Selma Hayek, it was Penelope Cruz, right?
Yeah, Penelope Cruz.
So even if you're like, we gotta have Penelope Cruz in this movie, like something like Mexico or Brazil would be a better choice than Colombia.
Yep.
And I know Brazil isn't like a Spanish-speaking country; it's a Portuguese-speaking country, but you can get away with it.
Yeah. So, January, the next movie we're likely to see is Operation Fortune. Ruse de Guerre? Is that de Guerre? Guerre? I don't know. It's a Guy Ritchie movie, so we're gonna go see it. Starring Jason Statham. Surprise, surprise! Jason Statham starring in a Guy Ritchie movie.
Well, he wasn't in let's see, he wasn't in that Arthur movie, and he wasn't in
yeah, but
The Gentleman.
Guy Ritchie didn't write. He didn't have full control, right? He just directed.
I don't know, but he wasn't in The Gentleman either.
You're right, but he was in that Wrath of Man. Is that what that was called?
Yeah, that one that didn't really feel like a Guy Ritchie movie.
Yeah. So we'll see how this one goes. That last Guy Ritchie movie felt like someone imitating Guy Ritchie. Felt weird. And then Morbius is after that. It's, next Marvel thing, so of course we're gonna go see that. Jackass Forever is in February. We're probably not gonna review that though, because
it's Jackass.
Yeah, like we're probably gonna go see it, but it's not the kind of thing that I think warrants review. Death on the Nile finally comes out. And I pointed out to you that Armie Hammer is not in that new trailer anywhere.
Yeah, he's still in the movie.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see, what they do with that. I don't think we're gonna see a lot of Armie Hammer going forward.
Not like we're seeing a lot of them to begin with.
That's true. We're gonna see less of them. Uncharted's also in February. We're big Uncharted fans, so we're gonna see that. We'll probably see Ambulance because it looks like a mindless Michael Bay movie.
Yeah.
What about Dog? Are we gonna see Dog?
I feel like Mom and Dad want to see Dog.
Yeah. Oh, and then there's The Outfit. That's that one with the tailor. That's like a front for.
Oh yeah.
Or like
where he gets pulled in.
He's a drop location for some mobster.
For the mob, yeah.
That looks very dramatic
Yeah.
and stressful. So, obviously the Batman, Turning Red's an upcoming Disney thing, so I'm probably gonna see that. And so that's what we got for the first quarter of 2022. Feels weird.
2020 also.
2021 flew by, man.
Yeah, it did kind of go by fast.
Weird. So that's what we got coming up. So if any of that sounds of interest to you, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, all that good stuff. Go check out other reviews. What was our last one?
I never remember.
You're never prepared for it. I ask you every time, and you're never ready for it.
Spider-Man, obviously.
Spider-Man. All right. So go check out the reviews. And yeah. Got anything else?
No.
All right, cool. Until next time. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Toodles.